My man Czar make tracks like this.
What's going on, y'all? I want to give you an overview of the Quantum 4848. This is the newest Thunderbolt interface from Presonus. I purchased this to replace my Orion 32, and I got it hooked up. Installation was very easy, especially since I have a Quantum, so I already knew what to expect. But everything went very quickly for me to get this installed, and before I know it, I was up and running with it. So I want to give you an overview of it because I haven't seen Presonus talk much about this. Normally they do a promo video for their newest interface, and I just haven't seen them mention this much. But as if you work with a lot of analog gear or patch bay, this is a pretty big deal. So the Quantum 4848 does 32 channels in and out by D-sub, and then it also has 16 channels by ADAT. And 32 channels, you can run that up to 192K. You go above that, you start to drop in your sample rate. Let's look at the front panel. Very minimalistic front panel here. You've got LEDs for your 32 channels, and after getting it installed and looking at it, I do wish that there was a row for inputs and a row for outputs. You have the option in the software control panel to change between inputs and outputs, but I would have liked 2 rows, one for inputs and one for outputs that way. Not a big deal as long as I'm able to glance over it and just to confirm that I'm getting signal in. I would also like, because with you switching between inputs and outputs, there's not a way to currently tell if the lights I'm looking at right now are input or output. You have to go to the control panel in order to see that. And that's something that I would like to just glance over and check on the front of the unit versus having to toggle over to the control software. You have a list for your sample rates there on the right, and that's really it. No front button controls at all except for the power button to power it on and off. And speaking of the power button, it's got a pretty cool startup sequence here that I'll show you. So just like the Quantum, when the power light is blue, that means it's locked to a clock source. On the left, that blue light lets you know that you have a Thunderbolt connection. On the back, if you're comparing this to, say, an Orion 32, you'll notice on the back that you don't have all of the connections that you would get with the Orion. On the back, you've got your D-sub connections, you have ADAT, and you have a word clock in and out, and 2 Thunderbolt 2 ports. That's it. No SPDIF, no MIDI. But this interface really serves a certain purpose. For those who use a lot of analog gear like I do, as well as patch bay. So I have this connected to my patch bay and connected to a lunchbox that I have just connected by D-sub. Makes it very easy and quickly and efficiently to get my analog gear into Studio One. And being able to daisy chain it to the Quantum, it also allows me to add more inputs to my whole setup. The physical inputs I now have are, make sure I get this math right, the 32 plus the 10, so 42 inputs and 46 physical outputs. And so it also allows me to use that analog gear without having to use up any more I/O from my Quantum. So let's look over at the control panel and let's take a look at that. So here we are in universal control, and you see I've got the Quantum 4848 and the Quantum connected here. So this is the control for the Quantum, and looking at the Quantum 48, really not much to look at here. Really my main complaint with the Quantum interface too is just pretty bland looking. But you have controls for your input or output to show on the front of the unit. If you have one of the Presonus uh, ADAT ADAT pre's, you can control those from here as well. And you have an RTA just like you do with the Quantum. And before I forget, another thing that you don't get with the 4848, there's no headphone outputs and there's no main outputs. So again, this interface may not be for everyone, but again, if you're using a lot of analog gear or a patch bay, this is perfect because it allows you to extend your I/O without using the I/O of your main interface. So back to here. So you've got inputs, and below you got your outputs, which are split into pairs here. You can see, and you've got 1 through 32 on the inputs here. And looking at it in Studio One, you'll notice that it recognizes that I have a Quantum 4848 and a Quantum both connected. And one pretty big deal about purchasing a Quantum 4848 is that it comes with Studio One Pro. Presonus other interfaces come with Studio One Artist. The Quantum comes with a 50% upgrade to Studio One Pro, but the 4848 comes with a copy of Studio One Pro. So that's a pretty big deal. You also, of course, get your Studio Magic plugin bundle and all of your other goodies that come with getting a Presonus interface from Presonus. Just when you purchase one, register it, and you'll see all your available content that you get with the interface. So inside Studio One, I want to show you my I/O setup with the Quantum 4848 and the Quantum. So not including physical inputs, I'm talking digital inputs and outputs, your ADAT, SPDIF. I've got a total now of, with the inputs, I've got 76 inputs, and on the outputs, got 80 outputs. So 76 in, 80 out. If I, fully hooked up everything I could to the ADAT, SPDIF, and all that for the Quantum 48 added with the Quantum. So one of the huge pluses of the 4848, I've got pipeline here, is I haven't set up all my I/O yet, but once I get all my outboard gear named, I'm going to save it as a preset in pipeline, and you'll see I've got some of my outboard gear listed here just from a previous I/O setup, but I'll be able to select what gear I want just through presets, and it'll already be hardwired into the Quantum 4848 and will come directly into Studio One. Very easy and very convenient for those using analog gear. But that's what I've got for your overview of the Quantum 4848. Any questions, let me know. I'll probably do a video just comparing it to the Orion 32 since I've owned it for a while. I wish I would have ran some files to do a comparison. But like I said, any questions, comments, let me know, and I'll catch y'all next time.